I still remember the sound of my wedding song playing when I found them together. That was the last day I trusted anyone. She held my bouquet. She fixed my veil. She stood 3 feet from me while I said I do. And the entire time, she was already planning to take everything I had. My best friend of 11 years. My maid of honor. And the woman who slept with my husband before the honeymoon was even over. I want you to picture the most important day of your life. The day you believed was the beginning of everything. Now imagine finding out it was already ending. Before you even cut the cake. That's where my story starts. And I promise you, by the time I'm done telling it, you will never look at the people closest to you the same way again. Before I tell you what happened, you need to understand who I was back then. I wasn't cynical. I wasn't suspicious. I was the kind of person who genuinely believed that if you loved people hard enough, they would love you back the same way. I grew up in a small house with a mother who worked double shifts and a father who coached my soccer team every Saturday. They taught me that loyalty was everything, that your people were your people, no matter what. I took that belief into every friendship I ever had. I took it into my marriage. I took it into the relationship I had with her. I was a graphic designer. I worked from home. I had built a small business from nothing, clients across 3 different states, a steady income, a life I was genuinely proud of. I wasn't naive. I was just faithful. There's a difference. But sometimes, the most faithful people end up being the most vulnerable. And I was about to learn that the hard way. Her name was Danielle. We met in college orientation, the very first week. I was lost looking for my dorm building, and she walked me there, then invited me to get coffee like we'd known each other for years. That was Danielle. Effortlessly warm. The kind of person who filled up a room the moment she walked in. We did everything together. Road trips at 2 in the morning. Crying on the phone through breakups. Sitting on her kitchen floor eating cereal when life felt too heavy to deal with. She was at every birthday. Every bad day. Every good one. When I met my husband, Marcus, she was the first person I called. She screamed into the phone. She told me he sounded perfect. She helped me pick out my engagement party dress. And when he proposed, she was the one I ran to first, even before I called my mother. 11 years of real, deep, unshakable friendship. At least that's what I thought it was. But looking back now, I wonder how much of it was ever real at all. The signs were there. I just didn't speak the language yet. About 8 months before the wedding, I noticed Danielle started texting Marcus more. Little things. Funny videos. Inside jokes I wasn't part of. When I mentioned it, she laughed it off. Said they were just bonding, that she wanted to make sure she actually liked the man I was marrying. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? Then came the engagement dinner. The 4 of us, me, Marcus, Danielle, and her boyfriend at the time. I watched her touch Marcus's arm twice while telling a story, leaning in closer than she needed to. I felt something cold move through me. Just for a second. I pushed it down. At bridal dress shopping, she spent 45 minutes telling the consultant what Marcus would prefer. Not what I wanted. What Marcus would think. I remember the consultant glancing at me with this careful expression. Like she was waiting to see if I would say something. I didn't. Why didn't I say something? The wedding was 3 months out when the doubts stopped being ignorable. Marcus started working late. Not every night, just often enough that I noticed. When I asked, he was gentle about it. Calm. He never got defensive. At the time, I thought that meant he wasn't hiding anything. Now I know that calm can be rehearsed. Danielle started canceling our planning calls. She'd reschedule, then cancel again. Always a good reason. Always apologetic. But something had shifted in the way she spoke to me. Like she was performing warmth instead of feeling it. 2 weeks before the wedding, I found a receipt in Marcus's jacket pocket. Dinner for 2. A restaurant I'd never heard of. A Tuesday night, he told me he was in a work meeting. The total was $212. I stood in our bedroom, holding that receipt for a long time. I told myself it was probably a client dinner. I told myself I was spiraling. I put it back in his pocket. I smoothed the jacket flat. And I kept planning my wedding. Can you imagine? I kept planning my wedding. The wedding was perfect. Or it looked perfect. White flowers everywhere. Marcus cried when he saw me walk down the aisle. Danielle stood right beside me, holding my bouquet, smiling that wide smile. We danced. We cut the cake. People told me it was the most beautiful wedding they'd ever been to. The reception was at a venue about 40 minutes from the hotel where Marcus and I were staying that night. Guests were still celebrating when I slipped away early with a headache. Marcus said he'd stay an extra hour to say goodbye to family. An hour passed. Then 2. I called him. Voicemail. I texted Danielle. No response. I wasn't worried yet, just tired, a little restless. Then I heard it. Our song. The song we had played at our first dance, coming from somewhere down the hotel hallway. I followed it. I don't know why. I just followed the sound. Room 214. The door was slightly open. I pushed it. And I froze. Marcus. Danielle. My wedding song, still playing from her phone on the nightstand. Still in his dress shirt. Still wearing the boutonniere I had pinned to his chest 6 hours earlier. I didn't scream. I didn't move. I just stood there. And something inside me went completely, permanently quiet. I closed the door. I walked back to our room. I sat on the edge of the bed in my wedding dress, and I waited. Marcus came in 40 minutes later. He saw my face and he knew. He didn't even try to explain. He just sat down across from me and put his head in his hands. I asked him one question. How long? He said 3 months. 3 months before the wedding. That meant every conversation about the seating chart. Every cake tasting. Every moment I was planning a future, they were already in one of their own. When Danielle knocked on the door 20 minutes later, I let her in. I looked at her standing in my doorway in the bridesmaid dress I had picked out for her. And I felt nothing. That scared me more than the anger. She cried. She said it just happened. She said she was sorry. I said 9 words to her. You were supposed to be the safest person I had. Then I asked her to leave. She left. Marcus slept in the hotel lobby that night. I slept in my wedding dress because I couldn't figure out how to reach the zipper. That detail still breaks me a little. Every time, the weeks that followed were the darkest of my life. I moved out of our shared apartment and into my sister's spare room with 2 suitcases. I lost 11 pounds in the first month without trying. I would sit at my design desk and just stare at the screen, unable to think, unable to work. I missed 3 client deadlines and had to refund over $4,000 because I simply could not function. My sister would leave food outside my door some nights because she knew I wouldn't come out. Mutual friends didn't know what to do. Some of them stayed quiet, which I understand. Some of them chose her side, which I don't. One couple we'd both known for years sent me a text saying they hoped we could both heal from this. Both heal. Like we were equally wounded. Like I had done something too. I deleted that text. I deleted everything. I stopped going to the places we used to go. I changed the route I drove to the grocery store so I wouldn't pass the coffee shop where Danielle and I used to sit on Sunday mornings. I was erasing a life I'd built. And for a while, I wasn't sure what would be left when I was done. The turning point came on a random Tuesday. I was sitting in my sister's kitchen at 7 in the morning, drinking cold coffee when my phone buzzed. It was a notification from a wedding planning group I'd forgotten I was in. Someone was asking for vendor recommendations, and my name came up. 3 people tagged me, said I was talented, said to reach out to me. I stared at that notification for a long time, and something shifted. Small, quiet, but real. I thought about everything I had built before him. Before her. The clients I'd earned. The business I'd grown. The woman who had walked into a design career with no connections and no safety net, and made something real out of nothing. She was still in there. She had just been buried under grief that wasn't her fault. I made a decision that morning. I wasn't going to disappear. I wasn't going to shrink. I was going to rebuild. And I was going to do it in a way that would make both of them understand exactly what they had thrown away. The question was, how? I want to be clear, I didn't plan anything destructive. I didn't scheme. What I built was quieter than that, and in some ways, more devastating. First, I hired a divorce attorney. A good one. She reviewed everything: our shared assets, the apartment lease, a joint savings account we'd opened together with just over $19,000 in it. My attorney found that Marcus had moved a significant portion of those savings 3 weeks before the wedding. She said that was important. I let her handle it. Second, I called every single one of my design clients personally. I was honest. I said I'd been through a personal crisis, I was back, and I was better than I'd ever been. 12 out of 14 came back. 2 sent referrals. Third, and this is the part I want you to pay attention to, I quietly removed myself from every mutual social circle, Danielle, and I shared. Not dramatically. Not with announcements. I just withdrew. And I waited. Because here's what I knew about Danielle that nobody else did. When she didn't have an audience, she always made mistakes. And I knew exactly where to be when she did. 4 months after the wedding, Danielle posted something on social media. A photo. Her and Marcus at a restaurant, the same restaurant from that $212 receipt. She tagged the location. She used the word finally, like they had waited. Like they had been patient. Like they were owed something. The response from people who knew us was immediate. And not in the way she expected. See, while I had been quiet, I had also been honest with the people who asked me directly what happened. I didn't tell everyone. But I told the right people. And people talk. Within 48 hours, Danielle's own sister sent her a message. A mutual friend, someone I'd never even asked to get involved, posted a single comment on that photo that said everything anyone needed to know. Danielle took the post down. But screenshots don't disappear. Meanwhile, my attorney had finished her work. The court ruled that Marcus owed me a settlement of just under $22,000, accounting for the moved funds, the shared assets, and additional costs. He paid it. Every dollar. I used the first deposit to lease my own studio space. My name on the door. My business. My terms. And the client list I rebuilt. It's now larger than it ever was when I was with him. Danielle and Marcus lasted 6 months as a couple. 6 months. Then he did to her exactly what he'd done to me. I didn't celebrate. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel something settle. Deep and final. In my chest, I am not the same person I was the morning I walked down that aisle. I know that. Some days I grieve that version of myself, the one who believed that loving people hard enough kept you safe. She was beautiful in her way. But she was also wrong. What I know now is this. Betrayal at that level doesn't break you permanently unless you let it define you permanently. It broke me for a season. It reshaped me completely. I run my studio full-time now. I have a team. I have boundaries I will never apologize for. I have friendships that are smaller in number and deeper in truth. And I have something I didn't have before, a very clear, very honest understanding of what I deserve. I deserve people who show up the same in private as they do in public. People who celebrate me without scorekeeping. People who would never mistake my trust for weakness. If you're watching this, and you're somewhere in the middle of your own version of this story, I want you to hear me clearly. The rebuilding is real. It is slow. It is unglamorous. But it is so worth it. You are worth it. Don't you dare disappear. If this story stayed with you, hit subscribe, because Dossier Karma is where real stories about betrayal, resilience, and the justice people never saw coming live. Drop a comment below and tell me, have you ever had someone you fully trusted turn out to be someone completely different? I read every single one. I'll see you in the next story.